Hello, my name is Dr. Mark Miller, and we're going to be talking about collagen and matrix health and what are the drivers for that. And to that end, I've posed in this talk, the title is Why Are Collagen Supplements Like IKEA Furniture? And to jump to the bottom line of that is, well, some assembly is required, and it's an assumption that many look past. So let's explore it and then look at ways to truly improve collagen and matrix health in general. So again, if like IKEA furniture, if you ingest collagen, then you require some degree of assembly to put it all together. So in this particular analogy, the actual furniture that's delivered is the collagen. And here we have a couple who are ambitiously putting together whatever structure they're trying to do, and they're reading an instruction book. And here's the issue as it relates to collagen is that the protein may be ingested, but then it has to undergo some digestive process to break it down from peptides into amino acids. The amino acids are then absorbed and they elevate the blood levels. And then the local tissue takes those individual amino acids and then reconstructs them into collagen. Now, there are some examples where small peptides get through, but largely it's amino acids. The bottom line, though, is that that assembly process is a very active process, and it's a process that may be optimized and amplified, and it may be a process that actually is suppressed or rendered dormant. And in that situation, it's pretty much equivalent to, say, trying to construct IKEA furniture without any instructions or any individuals to do it. So let's pursue this a little bit further. So here's a colleague who is really struggling with these furniture, and in this particular setting, he doesn't have the right resources to construct. In this case, the analogy is collagen proteins. These processes are all based on genetic code. So for each individual form of collagen, you have a specific gene that codes for an enzyme to make that form of collagen. And we know that there's at least 28 forms of collagen. So there's 28 genes that are involved in that construction process. If that gene is not optimized or amplified at the right level, then you won't be able to finish making the collagen. In this case, you won't be able to make your furniture. So let's take that analogy and look at it at a sort of a broader level as it relates to the entire collagen market. It's been growing very steadily since it sort of developed from the utility of what would be otherwise waste proteins, and it currently is set at about $8 billion. And there's about 3 different types of collagen supplements that are active in that particular market. By far, the most common form of collagen supplements is what I call first generation products, which is really taking pre-digested collagen down to a peptide level, and you simply ingest it. There may be some additions like vitamin C, but that's basically it. And they work on the assumption that if I ingest it, it'll be absorbed, it'll be delivered, and then it'll be reconstructed. But it doesn't control any of those particular processes. Now, the second generation form of collagen peptides are a little bit different. They may involve some collagen peptides that have been shown to have some reasonable efficacy. There's a few of those. It's not the majority for sure. And in addition, some of these second generation products include other ingredients to expand the benefits of the collagen supplement into other organ systems or addressing other health concerns. It may be vision, it may be something other than skin health. The third generation is quite rare, and that's really just emerging at the moment. And they are collagen supplements that focus on a much broader scale. So what they're actually doing is they're optimizing the processes of collagen construction from those amino acids and peptides. It's really altering cellular decision-making at the site. In addition, they're also limiting the breakdown of matrix by enzymes that are involved in proteolysis and elements like that. And they also include additional elements that expand the benefits beyond skin. So the third generation is much more complex. It's looking at the whole equation of both production and actually breakdown whilst expanding the number of outlets of which you're addressing the health concerns. So let's get down to what really drives matrix health and collagen health. To date, the assumption is that it's based on substrate. And that's just not accurate. There are plenty of amino acids in blood that will be able to supply those substrates. You can certainly top it up. And in particular, there's 3 amino acids that are particularly important for collagen production. That's glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline. And it's very good to sort of top them up with a supplement, but it's not driven by substrate per se. What it is driven by are particular enzymes that string all those amino acids together in the right sequence, depending on which form of collagen you have. And again, there's at least 28 different forms of collagen. Each has their own enzyme, each has their own process, and each has their own sequence of amino acids. These enzymes that are doing all that restringing, which is like the instructions in the IKEA furniture analogy, have the potential to be suppressed. And the conditions that suppress these enzymes or render them into dormancy are things like inflammation, UV radiation, sun exposure, oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction, and aging. And there are commonalities within all those elements. Under these circumstances, which are really the ideal circumstance for which you're looking for a collagen supplement, under those conditions, those genes that are involved in restringing all those amino acids into the collagen protein are actually rendered dormant. And so these genes, like all the human genes, have on and off switches. And depending on the nature of that switch, determines whether the gene is copied and an enzyme is produced. So inflammation and oxidative stress, aging, all of those elements contribute to the suppression of collagen production because it turns off the switch that codes for the enzyme to string the amino acids to make the collagen. Now, interestingly, these matrix structures are also prone to degradation. They break them down. And they're also broken down by the same sort of drivers: inflammation, oxidative stress, free radicals, environmental stresses, stimulate at the same time the production of enzymes called MMPs, matrix metalloproteinases, whose sole purpose is to break down collagen, usually damaged collagen, but it could also be healthy if it's on a sustained basis. So it's this yin yang between production and degradation that we need to balance. And so if you take a collagen supplement that's just supplying the amino acids and peptides, you are really assuming that everything is on board in terms of production, and it may not be, depending on what the background health conditions are. So let's explore this a little bit further. The assumptions in the beauty from within market is that if I ingest collagen, it will be broken down, absorbed as part of the digestive process, and delivered to the skin and drive skin repair. In addition, the market recognizes that vitamin C is an important process for this. They don't really explain it very well, but they also state it's the best antioxidant for skin health. That's an assumption. And the other assumption is that you only need to supply substrates. That's all you need to do in order to drive beauty from within. And I have an analogy here with this particular photograph. This is actually a truck driver who's had one side of his face aged a lot faster because he's got light UV radiation coming in from one side of a window, hitting his face over his lifetime. And it's driven matrix breakdown, so fine lines, wrinkles, all of those elements, because of this constant exposure to signals that suppress collagen production and drive collagen breakdown. And it was on one side because that's the side where the drivers were occurring. So it's a very interesting example of sustained inflammation and oxidative stress. And just to point out that you can correct this, but you need to be, if we go back, if you go back to this particular slide, you're looking at the impact of an antioxidant. In this case, we're comparing astaxanthin, which is a carotenoid, to vitamin C. So on the left side there, you can see that vitamin C at a fairly high dose in these human fibroblasts does stimulate collagen production, but it does it actually in a unique way. It mainly makes collagen stronger by facilitating cross bridges between proline amino acids. However, on the right side of the panel, you'll notice that under the context of UV radiation, collagen production is rendered to be zero. And when you add vitamin C, even in the context of this situation with UV radiation, it doesn't have any impact. Collagen production is still zero. By contrast, astaxanthin, same dose, nearly fully restores collagen production. And there are several reasons for that. Astaxanthin is 6,000 times more potent than vitamin C as it relates to free radical scavenging. But what it's also doing is it's changing the cellular decision-making in these fibroblasts to stimulate the genes that actually restring the amino acids and make collagen. Now, if you add vitamin C on top of that, you get back to full production of collagen, even in the context of the suppressive signal of UV radiation. So related to that, the question is vitamin C enough? And the answer is no. Vitamin C is largely ineffective at determining the gene expression for the enzymes that make the various forms of collagen. That is particularly good for these cross bridges. But the other factor to consider is that vitamin C is very water soluble, whereas astaxanthin is lipid soluble. And so it works at the top level of your skin, the outermost layers, and blocks the UV radiation, the free radicals, and the oxidative stress that comes from the top down. So there's a different location as well as a different potency and a different ability to modify all of these particular events. So let's move on and go back to these assumptions and just sort of carefully evaluate them. Ingested collagen is all you need to drive skin repair? Maybe. It depends on whether you have those enzymes active and in place. If they're dormant, then no. Is vitamin C the best antioxidant for skin health? No. It's too weak, it's polar, it doesn't penetrate all the layers of the epidermis, and it has no impact on an imbalanced gene expression under the conditions that we just described. So in order to say all I have to do is bring a collagen peptide or a collagen supplement, added some vitamin C, and you're good to go, that really is an assumption that is now busted based on that data and other data. So let's move on and explain this in other ways on how do you correct this. So this is a slide that really shows some data in a slightly different form. It's not skin, it's actually human cartilage. And this is a study that I did some 11 years ago. On the top left-hand panel, you'll see the results for NF-kappa B. NF-kappa B is the master gene switch, which regulates thousands of genes involved in inflammation. And when it's activated, it turns on a variety of genes with inflammation because it acts as a switch binding onto DNA. And you'll see in that slide with the histogram that interleukin-1, which is an immune activator, establishes oxidative stress, greatly elevates the level of NF-kappa B on DNA. So it's bound to it from its dormant state and activates the gene. In this particular case, a herbal leucine mixture, which is primarily Catskillar as the botanical, has a dose-dependent inhibition of NF-kappa B activation. So that switch that is turning on inflammation is actually turned off by the presence of cat's claw. And then on the right from that, you'll see the gene expression for two really critical genes for cartilage health. One is glucosamine, that's called ACAN, compared to a reference gene that is always stable. So when you have changes from the number one, it's either going up or down, depending on whether it's suppressed or activated. And you can see that interleukin-1 in this inflammatory distress suppresses glucosamine production, ACAN production goes, gene expression goes down, and cat's claw reverses that in a dose-dependent manner. Just to the right of that is type 2 collagen, COL2A1. Same deal. Under normal circumstances, you have this degree of expression of collagen 2 production in terms of the gene. Inflammation switches it right down, and then in this particular case, cat's claw, as a botanical, reversed it. And in fact, under basal conditions, without the interleukin-1, without the oxidative stress, it actually raises it well above baseline. And the bottom there is just glycosamine and glycans, GAG. That is a reflection that the cartilage is breaking down under these inflammatory settings. So this is a study of really defining inflammation, oxidative stress activates these gene switches, which then suppress and render dormant collagen gene expression, and you won't be able to make the collagen. So let's explore it a little bit further in a slightly different way and look at matrix degradation. So here I'm back with my truck driver. And in this particular setting, not only has he, on one side of his face in particular, had excessive UV radiation and oxidative stress, let's explore what would happen to matrix degradation in this particular setting. Again, oxidative stress will activate NF-kappa B. NF-kappa B activates matrix degrading enzymes called MMPs, and that then is involved in breaking down the matrix. So let's look at some the same type of data in this particular setting, but actually not looking at the process of making collagen. Let's have a look at the process of breaking it down. So on the top two panels, panels A and B, we have the gene expression for two of these enzymes. They're like molecular machetes hacking up your collagen and matrix. So we have MMP9 and MMP13. There's a whole family of these MMPs. And when you hit these human cartilage cells with interleukin-1, you can see that you upregulate the gene expression for MMP9 and MMP13. It is also translated into actual protein as well. So the levels in C and D just shows the levels of these particular enzymes. And in both situations, if you expose it concurrently to cat's claw or this herbal leucine mixture, as it's described here, you suppress the ability of that inflammation to activate these enzymes. So in this particular setting, even though there is an inflammatory signal, you can block it and you can prevent the production of MMP9, MMP13, and other degrading enzymes. And so you limit the destruction and degradation of the matrix. So this is simultaneous with the effects on collagen production. So let's try and summarize here. The failure to account for matrix degradation is an absolutely common flaw in collagen supplements. Most people don't even discuss it. They're always talking about production. But there's a flip side. You have to understand what is degradation and breakdown of these matrix structures. And the same processes that suppress collagen production are actually activating matrix breakdown. So it's really a balancing act, and you're going to get better skin health and matrix health when you consider all the elements on both sides, both production and breakdown. And interestingly, interventions that are driven at oxidative stress, inflammation, all these commonalities can actually rebalance it on both sides. So the focus on superior matrix health or skin health really requires restoring a balancing act to those gene expression elements of both production and degradation. And that's where you find true innovation. So in conclusion, the initial robust enthusiasm that we have for the collagen industry is built around the delivery of just substrate. But the industry is maturing. And we're having a situation now where it's open for disruptive forces for those groups that are understanding more intimately how we can regulate collagen health. And these innovations are centered on understanding the core drivers about collagen production, which genes need to be turned on, and also the degradation, which genes need to be turned off. And so this is particularly important because really, if you optimize and augment the cellular decision-making in terms of which genes are on and which genes are off, you're going to have a superior outcome because then you can convert the amino acids in the collagen supplement more effectively to the actual protein. In other words, getting back to the original concept that, collagen supplements are a little bit like IKEA furniture. Some assembly is required. Here you're getting someone who's skilled in the craft of reconstructing that furniture and can read all the instructions, as opposed to getting some furniture with no instructions or having, like me, perhaps little skill in building furniture. Understanding the processes that are involved will lead to superior outcomes for the consumer and true innovation in the particular industry. So for that, I thank you for staying with me and listening to this particular talk, and hopefully you'll enjoy the concepts and also participate in driving innovation for what is a fairly exciting industry. So thank you very much, and cheers.